I'm going over the 2024 United States Senate elections map and looking at all the current polls for these states and assigning the Senate races as the polls say. And we're going to find out who is currently favored based on the polls to have control of the Senate, the Republicans or the Democrats. Now, a quick programming note for this video. There are some states that did not have any polling data done. And these states are the states that I currently have colored in red and blue right now. These states did not have any polls conducted for those respective races, so I assigned them what the characterization is of these Senate races at what the election is going to be. For instance, in Utah, there was no polling data for Utah, but we know it's going to be a safe Republican race, so I just assigned to the Republican side. Same thing for the state of New York. There was no polling data conducted in that race, but we know the Democratic incumbent is going to win there over 15 points, so I assigned it as so. So with that said, now I'm going to go state by state go through all the light gray states that do have polls, and then just go from there. The first one I have is the state of Massachusetts, where Elizabeth Warren, the incumbent Democrat, is up against John Deaton, the Republican. There's a few other Republicans running, but he's the leader right now, and Warren is leading by 23 points. So that is going to be Massachusetts in the safe column for Warren. Next up, we have the state of New Jersey, where there's a Democratic candidate, Kim, going up against Republican Bashaw, and incumbent Senator Bob Menendez is running as an independent, not as a Democrat this time around. I've done a video about him, about everything he's facing right now, so if you want to check that out, I highly encourage it. Kim is leading this poll by 6 points, which that would be enough to put New Jersey in the likely Democratic column, not the lean, but the likely Democratic column, just over 5 percentage points. In the state of Maryland, the Democrat leading right now is also Brooks, I believe is how it's pronounced, and she is facing a challenge against Republican former Governor Larry Hogan, and she is currently leading in this race by 9 points, which that would put Maryland in the likely Democratic column. So right now, Democrats have 39, Republicans have 45. Next, we move to the state of Virginia, where incumbent Senator Tim Kaine, the Democrat, is facing a fight from Republican Hung Kiao, I believe is how it's pronounced. Either Cow or Xiao. I think it's Cow. Can you correct me if I'm wrong on that? But Kaine is leading here by about 12.6% in the polls. That's under 15%, which would be safe, but it is over 5%, which is the likely margin, so that is enough to put Virginia in the likely Democratic column. Now we go to the state of Tennessee, where Republican Senator Marsha Blackburn is up 17.5% over her Democratic incumbent Johnson. So that is going to put Tennessee in the safe Republican column. So that was Tennessee. Now we move to the state of Florida, where Republican Rick Scott is facing a challenge from a Democrat, Mercarcel Powell, and Scott is only leading in the polls by 5.7 points. So in the likely column, but just barely in the likely column for Scott, almost in the lean column there. Next, we're going to go to the state of North Dakota, where Republican incumbent Kevin Cramer is facing up against a Democrat named Christensen. He's up by 26 points. No surprise, North Dakota goes in the safe Republican column. No surprise there. Next up, we go to the state of Texas, where Republican Senator Ted Cruz is up against Colin Allred. Cruz is 47.2%, Allred 39.6%. That puts Cruz at 7.6%, enough to put him in the likely Republican column. Then we go right next to Texas to the state of New Mexico, where the Democratic incumbent, I believe it's Martin Heinrich, is facing off against a Republican challenger named Domenici, and Heinrich is leading here by 7 points, which is enough to put New Mexico in the likely Democratic column. So Republicans have 49, Democrats have 41. And next up, we're going to go to the state of California, where right now the leading candidates in the open primary are Adam Schiff and Republican Steve Garvey. If this is the matchup, the polls have Schiff over 23 points. That is enough to put California in the safe Democratic column. Democrats 42, Republicans 49. Missouri in the Senate race, Josh Hawley is going up against a Democrat. I believe his name is Lucas Kuntz. He is the leading Democratic candidate at this time. Hawley's hovering about, when you do the math, you do the averages, a little over about 12, 13, 14% or so. So still likely, not enough to be safe, but Hawley will no doubt be winning re-election in the state of Missouri. That gets Republicans at 50, Democrats at 42. Next, we go to the state of Minnesota, where Amy Klobuchar is facing a challenge from a Republican white, and she's up by 12.5%. That would put Minnesota in the likely Democratic column. That's 43 for the Democrats, 50 for the Republicans. That was Minnesota. Now we go over to Wisconsin, where Tammy Baldwin, the incumbent senator, is facing a challenge from Republican Eric Hovde, and Baldwin is leading here by 5.4%, just enough to be in the likely column. Wisconsin goes in the likely Democratic column. Now we're starting to get into more of the contested Senate races in this election cycle, and I think the polls are going to suggest that moving forward. So Democrats are at 44, Republicans are at 50. In the state of Michigan, we have Elisa Slotkin going up against Mike Rogers. This is an open seat. Right now, Slotkin leads Rogers by 6 points. That would be enough to put Michigan in the likely Democratic column for right now. Again, this is based on the polls. This is not my own personal opinion. This is just what the polls say right now. Next, you go to the state of Pennsylvania, where incumbent Bob Casey is facing a challenge from Republican Dave McCormick. Right now, Casey's leading in the polls by 5.5% over McCormick. That is just barely enough to put Pennsylvania in the likely Democratic margin. Republicans 50, Democrats 46. Next up, we're going to go to the state of Arizona, where Republican Kari Lake is running against Ruben Gallego, the Democrat. Ruben Gallego, the Democrat, is at 47%. Republican Kari Lake is at 43.6%. Gallego is leading Lake 3.4% of the vote. That is enough to right now put Arizona in the lean Democratic column, lean Gallego column. Democrats are at 47, Republicans are at 50. And now we're into the final three remaining toss-up states. We have the state of Nevada, where Jackie Rosen, the incumbent Democratic senator, is facing a challenge from Republican Sam Brown. And right now, Rosen is leading Brown by 4 points, 46.7 to 42.7. That is under 5 points, so that will go in the lean column. Nevada right now in the lean column for Rosen over Brown. And next we go to the state of Ohio, where there's incumbent Senator Sherrod Brown going up against Republican Bernie Moreno. Right now, Brown has a 5.2% lead, so just barely by 0.2%, that is enough for Brown to be put into the likely column. Ohio likely for Brown over Moreno at this time, according to the polls, 50 to 49. Last state remaining is the state of Montana, where incumbent Senator John Tester is going up against Republican Tim Sheehy. This is the only toss-up state right now in the polls that shows Republicans are actually doing well enough to flip this seat. Sheehy's up by 1.5%. That would put Montana narrowly in the lean Republican column. At least right now, according to the polls, Tester appears to be the only Democratic incumbent actually losing to his Republican challenger at this time. Of course, things could change as the election gets closer, but right now, he's the only Democratic incumbent running for re-election that seems to be losing in the polls right now. So with that, the Senate map is Republicans at 51, Democrats at 49. And this is very, very interesting because the polls so far, there haven't been a ton of polls conducted, but what has been done, I've been kind of shocked by Nevada and Arizona being lean Democrat. I'm not too surprised because at least that's still very close, about 5% or under, so I understand that. Ohio being over 5 points, Pennsylvania being over 5 points, and then Michigan and Wisconsin being over 5 points is a little bit surprising to me considering on the presidential level, Trump is leading all of these states either by close margins or in Ohio's case, not close at all, leading by a lot. So I'm kind of interested to see how close the polls were in this video. But that'll do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Again, that's just going off of what the latest polls are in these states. That is not my official prediction. That'll be coming at a later time. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please, if you did, give it a like and hit subscribe to my channel so you get notified when I make videos like this going forward. Thank you so much for watching and hope to see you in a future video.